What's up, everyone? My name's Plume, and my opinion might surprise you. Well, maybe not most of you. You see, this isn't much of a theory, as it is a way to practice my debating skills. I'd like to go over the whole home is bad conversation that has been lingering since the first update. This is for fun, and I'm curious to hear your opinion in the comments. Before we start name-calling over here, what exactly is a bad guy? It's pretty self-explanatory. A bad guy is, well, a bad guy. Whether you think of it in a more fictional sense, what with the black cape and the red color palette and the sinister grin, or in the more literal sense, like someone who wouldn't open a door for a little old lady after making extensive eye contact. We can all agree that a bad guy is someone who inflicts harm on others. If you drop kick a baby, you're bad. If you don't follow traffic safety laws, you're bad. If you rob a convenience store, you're bad. Unfortunately, it isn't as simple as it sounds. If a thief steals some essentials, that doesn't automatically mean he's a bad guy. Maybe he just can't afford the things he needs. If you're that desperate for the things you need, it's not your fault you're stealing, is it? But let's say that same thief stole from the cash register, threatening the cashier's life or something similar to that just for the heck of it. Then yeah, you're a pretty bad guy. In reality, what is considered bad goes far beyond your actions, which is why fighting in self-defense is okay, but starting fights is a completely terrible thing to do. So now the question is, what are Holmes' intentions, and does it justify whatever he did, if anything at all? Starting with his intentions, in character at least, Holmes only seems to care about being included and making sure all the neighbors are playing nice with each other. We see in stories like Brick by Brick where Holmes is shown to be disappointed when being excluded from one of Sally's plays before Poppy decides not to go, which makes sense. He has a house. It's gonna be really hard to involve him in the normal activities his neighbors partake in. Without a body or a voice, he basically has to live life through Wally, who seems to be the only one who can understand him, always needing to translate his creaks and snaps and groans and whatever other noise he makes. He has a house, okay? I don't know. House noises. Of course, we know he can be included in a bunch of activities, but not like an able-bodied can. Holmes can be in one of Sally's plays, but he's just as important as you would be being the tree. Holmes can play board games with Julie, but she'd have to move all the pieces for him. Holmes can communicate through Wally, or what he does most of the time, he'll just bang on the walls, open the doors, and let his tone speak for him. So, for example, when Barnaby makes a bad joke, Holmes can express the disappointment he feels, and Barnaby will get what Holmes is trying to say. Your joke sucks. It's a real darn diddly shame that Holmes can't throw tomatoes at him like the rest of the neighbors can, and that's what I'm trying to say. Apart from being excluded from everything, Holmes also has another little trait. Holmes doesn't like it when you speak bad about the rest of the neighbors. He doesn't like the gossip. He doesn't like all the rumors. He wants to keep it friendly. I'll get into the stuff he may or may not have done in a minute. These are very harmless intentions and honestly doesn't mean anything on its own, especially since Holmes literally hasn't done anything, taking everything in a calm, collected manner. But how do you explain the fear the neighbors feel around him? Bloom, what are you saying? That only happened once. Hush now, my dear, dear audience. I can hear you. Trust me, I can hear you. I think the exact same thing, except I don't, and I'm going to tell you why very, very soon. I want to take a closer look at the other two meltdowns we see in the website, that being Julie's and Poppy's. I'll explain why I think Holmes had something to do with it. You just gotta wait, my child. You just gotta wait. Stop being so damn impatient. We already know about Eddie, but let's start with him because, well, you know, it's Eddie. During the Christmas update, or homewarming as the neighbors like to call it, we see one unlucky fellow break down for the first time ever. Here's a summary of what happened to him in the episodes provided by our dear friend W, as I see it. For the first time in a long time, our one and only mailman was left with no work at all to do. This stresses him beyond any rationality. Come to find out that the lack of work was because the neighbors were trying to ensure that Eddie wasn't too busy to come to the homewarming party at home. When Eddie realizes that this was their gift to him, he takes it and enjoys his time off. That is until home somehow magically gives him a panic attack and forces him to go back to his post office, where he belongs. The fact that home was one of the only things Eddie could see during this silent panic attack is a pretty clear indicator that he has something to do with it. Moving on to our next victim, Poppy. It's pretty hard to prove that home did anything at all in the Looky Loo book, brick by brick. But let's go down what happened. The storybook starts with Wally telling the narrator that the neighborhood will be putting on a play by Sally herself. Sally pops up to confirm this, to which Wally asked if home can be a part of the play too. Unfortunately, she already casted everyone for the show and was actually on her way to hand Poppy her script. When Wally and Sally go to Poppy's barn, Poppy lies to Sally about being too busy to participate, opening the role to home. When Sally talks to the neighbors about it, she realizes that it was all just excuses and came to the conclusion that the play was just too scary for Poppy to be a part in. And in fact, if Poppy were to see it or hear it, Poppy would have a little panic attack. So Sally and the neighborhood came up with a plan to board up Poppy's windows with bricks, to which Poppy eventually goes along with. When the last brick was popped into place, the audio cuts out. If you continue reading the book yourself, the story ends with the neighbors enjoying the play and a few disturbing lines, such as, most important of all, not a single peep was heard out of Poppy. And everything was as it should be. If you find the missing audio, we are taken to Poppy's point of view from her barn. Poppy convinces herself that this is the best and she's happy where she is in her cozy nest with her lantern and her sewing needles. But just as quick as she was to enjoy her time alone, much like Eddie, something started haunting her. However, unlike Eddie's, you actually don't get to see anything. It's pure audio. But we do get to hear what it sounds like. Kind of. Before I play the clip, please remember that Poppy is in distress and it might disturb some viewers.
It's open. The door's open. What do you want? The door's open. What do you want? What do you want? Open the door! Open the door! Are you all right? I couldn't get out. Am I out? Where am I?
You're out! The door's open. Why don't you open the door?
The door? The door. Yes, the door. We could have left.
Now, there are a couple of things that just don't make sense. For one, the timeline. 2, what the hell the noise was. And 3, why couldn't she open the door? From what we're told in the book, apparently the neighbors were supposed to have the play without any problems. You don't hear Poppy at all. We even see Frank and Sally in the crowd cheering Julie. But how did they do all that, come back, in the 3 minutes Poppy was alone? This ending is clearly a rewrite of what actually happened, or maybe it was acted out after they helped Poppy for the sake of the show. Who was making all that noise? I so desperately want to say that it was home, but like I said earlier, he's literally rooted to the ground, so it's not like he's actually there in her barn. But do you know what else makes those scratching and knocking noises? That's right, that's home. Side note, can we talk about what actually happened there for a second? In this audio, we hear someone trying to turn the doorknob. Most people think this is Poppy trying to escape, but what if this was another door inside the house? Or, even more likely, what if it's both? When Poppy says that the door is open, you'd assume she's talking to someone outside the front door. But later, she claims that she couldn't get out. We know she meant that she couldn't get out of her barn because the neighbors had heard her trying to open that front door, and they asked her, "Why couldn't you open the door?" So if she was trying to open the front door herself, then whoever she was talking to was trying to open another door within the barn. If this thing was a person, that is. For now, I blame the commotion on Home. Why? Because Home is magical and can do whatever he wants. Who knows, maybe all the houses in the neighborhood are just extensions of Home, like a hive mind. That's just my theory. It always has been my theory. No proof attached to it. And now on to our most recent victim, Julie Joyful. I'll be summarizing the congratulation videos you can find through rearranging the meanings of flowers you find throughout other collections of hidden videos. It's a complicated process. Anyway, we start with Julie going around the whole neighborhood to make the flowers bloom in spring, accompanied by Frank. Julie finds a black flower that won't bloom no matter what she does, even after she promised Frank and the whole rest of the neighborhood that she could. Side note, in this update we learned the term clock turn, and based on this story, I'm guessing that a clock turn is a whole day instead of a regular hour. The days with this ugly-looking thing being a bud is weighing on her. She claims that she'll be in trouble if anyone found out that she can't do her job, not as a rainbow monster, not as a nature newscaster, and not as a part of the neighborhood. Julie breaks down and begs the flowers to bloom before anyone could see them like this. She's worried about what her family will think, scared of what Frank would say. Interestingly, she's scared of needing to go back. From what little we know, she could be referring to two places. One, being her family cave, and two, being the burrow she supposedly had been digging herself before Frank and Wally found her. Finally, we learned that she's most afraid of getting in trouble. Trouble how? Trouble with who? Now, I don't want to point fingers, but... All right, fine. Home had nothing to do with this. If anything, she might actually be afraid of the Marlowe ink. That spiral resembles the Marlowe logo an awful lot. Though this is debatable, I won't get into it here. Home wins this round. Even if he is all about spirals, it's not enough for me to connect them. But wait, I'm not giving up this fight. I still have one more trick up my sleeve. In the Looky Loo book, The Julie Guide to Being Joyful, Julie tries to explain what joy looks like to Wally. She tells Wally that the best way to know what joy looks like is to remember the times when you were really happy. Julie goes down a small list of the things that makes her happy. Each thing is an event that happened with one of the neighbors. For example, she feels happy when she helps Poppy bake, or when Sally casts her in one of her plays, and so on. But until we get to Howdy's page, do we realize that a page of the book had been ripped out. Since we're getting one neighbor per page, it's pretty safe to assume that the two characters that are missing are Home and Frank. This is all very strange because we've all noticed a romantic tension between Julie and Frank that went from 0 to 10. I think this is mostly because they're best friends, and since the update revolves around Julie, there's simply more content with them. But I digress. The other character who has failed to be mentioned is Home, yet again. Okay, so Home has abandonment issues, whatever the blah 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 blah. But why is it important to mention it here in Julie's update, if not to show that Home is playing a bigger role? Home might not have actually done anything, but the fear they all have clearly point to some sort of wrongdoing. Home's role in the neighborhood is extremely vague and hard to connect, especially compared to the other neighbors. Wally's the main character, Barnaby's the funny one, Julie's joyful, Frank is smart, Eddie's clumsy, Howdy's the shopkeeper, Poppy's the baker, the mother figure, the whatever, the bird, Sally's the glamorous one, and Home is the evil one. No, seriously, what else is he supposed to be? He has all the bad guy tropes going on, okay? Looks-wise, he's red. He's the only character that's not some sort of puppet. He has those eyes. To be fair, though, Wally also has those eyes, and a few of the bugs, but we'll get there. And he is over-flooding with that black paint, which is extremely toxic to humans, as we learn in the Staff's Only page. Staff members are warned to handle everything shipped in this paint, which is everything has this paint on it, with gloves on. If the paint grows, the staff are instructed to put it back in the box of which it came from and not to sweat it. And if they start experiencing symptoms of nausea, dizziness, and fatigue, just sleep it off and contact the group. Another bad guy requirement are motives, and he's got them. I think if this was a real show, Home would be the character representing the disabled. The poor guy can't walk, can't talk, look beyond his field of vision. Yet another point I'll get to, and therefore can't be like the other puppets. At least not in the same way. So boom, he's jealous. No, at least I don't think so. He's never shown any signs of jealousy. But who knows, it all can point to it. Okay, let's go back to the eyes. We all know in media there's only one good way to interpret eyes, and that's the windows to the soul. And from there, it's all creepy and evil and dark. Home and Wally are the only characters that have a lot of focus on their eyes. Whether you think they're watching through all of them scattered throughout the website, or the Marlowe Company, or the workshops, eyes are evil, and Home is all about them. Apologies. I ended up turning this video into a long, scattered ramble. I completely understand if it's hard to follow. Let me go down the same points again. The neighbors fear Home for a reason. Whatever happened for Home to get this bad reputation must have been horrifying. Home is associated with those creepy eyes everywhere, and with that black paint. Everything I said in this video isn't as structurally sound as I'd like it to be, but for all the information we have, I'd say it's a very good guess at the very least. Some of you might point out that I haven't mentioned the spirals also associated with Wally and Home, but that's because I have literally no clue what it means. My best theory is that it's mind control. You know, because in every medium, if a character is under control, their eyes turn to spirals. But that's just a theory that I pulled out of just what it means in general. So, yeah, I didn't want to mention it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again. Goodbye.